In this video, I'm going to build armies from every section of Star Wars, getting bigger and bigger until we reach the Grand Army of the Republic at the very end. Kicking things off with my giant Old Republic army consisting of just one figure. Speaking of quantities of one, I have a whole load of alien species that I only have one of, and they'll make up the first miscellaneous section. Bumping things up to two now, we have two Nemoidians, two Bespin Guards, two of the amazing Quarren minifigures, I definitely want to get more of these, two Powens from episode 2, one of which being a beautifully custom printed one from GCC, as well as finally two of the Umbarans from the Clone Wars. Now moving up, we have 3 Gamorrean guards, 4 of the Cantina band members, as well as 4 of the Twi'lek species, including iconic named characters like Bib Fortuna, Hera, and Aayla Secura. Next I bought 4 Rodian heads, which I used to make 4 different Rodians, including one from episode 6, and this senator from the Clone Wars. We have 4 Jawas, and finally 4 of the awesome species, the Mon Calamarians. Our next slightly larger army is the Ewoks. We only have 5 of those, as well as 5 of the Geonosians from episode 2, and 5 Senate Commandos. And no, contrary to popular belief, these are not clone troopers. Next we have 7 Tusken Raiders from the planet Tatooine, and LEGO recently released this awesome Kaminoan minifigure, so I went ahead and bought 8 of those. And yeah, I'm actually going to be selling a few of these, as well as loads of other things, so stay tuned later in the video to find out how to get yourself a steal on one of these. There are a ton of bounty hunters in the Star Wars universe, and I've got some awesome ones including Cad Bane, Fennec Shand, Bossk, Aurra Sing, Dengar, and a few others that make up my bounty hunter army. Now heading to Naboo, we have a slightly larger army of Gungans, made up of a couple of Jar Jar Binkses, as well as a load of regular Gungans. And adding a bit of hair to our next minifigure, we have a ton of Wookiees, 11 in total, with different versions of Chewbacca, and some other named ones. Dark side users come in as our next army, starting with Palpatine and a couple of Darth Vaders, alongside a burnt up Anakin, Darth Maul and his brother Savage, as well as a Christmas version of Maul, and this awesome Sith minifigure from the Old Republic. We have a couple of figs from Ahsoka, including Shin Hati and Baylan Skull, as well as a bunch of different Inquisitors, including this beautifully custom printed Second Sister minifigure. This little squad looks pretty formidable. Let me know whether you think these guys could take on my Jedi collection, which you'll see in just a minute. But before we get to the Jedi, I have another iconic army, the Mandalorians. We see these guys throughout Star Wars, starting off with these 4 guys from the 2019 Battle Pack, as well as some original Blue Mandos from the original Old Battle Pack, and the remade version, which I actually just got a few more polybags of, so let's open them up and create a nice quantity of these. Speaking of these magazine polybags, the most recent magazine features this other Blue Mandalorian, which actually came in the Fang Fighter, and so I bought a load of these, adding them to my Mandalorian army. Next we have Pre Vizsla from the Clone Wars, this custom Blue Mando, Bo-Katan, Jango Fett, Gar Saxon, and some awesome rare Darth Maul Mandalorians, followed by Paz Vizsla, a few versions of Boba Fett, including this incredibly rare 2015 Slave 1 version in his regular armor with the arm printing, a Christmas Mando, as well as Sabine Wren. We have the regular armorer from the Mandalorian Forge, as well as a custom armorer from Firestar Toys, and of course the Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin, amounting to a total of 45 awesome Mandalorians. Next we have our Jedi minifigures, starting with, of course, the most iconic Jedi, Master Yoda. Let me know in the comments which version you like the most. And whilst you're down there, make sure that you're subscribed, because about 95% of people who watch my videos don't subscribe, so make sure you're in that top 4%. Next we have 2 Ahsokas, 2 Qui-Gon Jinns, one being with yellow skin, which is actually the only yellow skin minifigure I have, but I've got to say the new version is so much better. We have 6 Mace Windus. I really need to stop buying those Republic fighter tanks, followed by 2 versions of Rey, and a bunch of Obi-Wans, these 3 being my favourites. We have an Anakin from episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, and even some ones from the Clone Wars, including this beautifully printed Anakin in his Clone Wars armor Jedi, where we have 4 custom Jedi Temple Guards, as well as Master Huyang from the Clone Wars and the recent Ahsoka show. We have 2 Jedi from Jedi Fallen Order, including Cal Kestis and his master, some younglings, and then various different awesome alien Jedi, including the evil Pong Krell, and other amazing Jedi that we've gotten through the years, amounting to a total of 51 Jedi Knights. Next we're going to a really underrated army, the First Order. We start by adding some regular stormtroopers, one having a familiar face under this bloody helmet, and then I added some heavy troopers in front of them, led by Commander at the front, adding my 1 jet trooper and some AT-ACT pilots at the back, followed by some flame troopers and snow troopers in front of them. My officers and ground crew members made up the next 2 squads, including these awesome TIE fighter pilots, some Final Order troopers, and the Knights of Ren on the right. We have the BB-9E unit, as well as 2 versions of Kylo Ren and Snoke up front leading the army. And as I said, I think this army is super underrated. As much as I hate the sequels, I love the First Order, and we have 123 minifigures in this collection. And so moving on, we have the Rebel army up next with 146 minifigures. We have all of the different named figures across the front, including ones from Rogue One, Rebels, regular sort of minifigures from the originals, as well as from the Mandalorian, and much more. We have then Endor minifigures in the middle here, Chewbacca, 3PO, R2-D2, Luke, Han and Leia over here. Then we have 30 Hoth Rebels, 32 Rebel Fleet Troopers, plus a Captain Antilles and a couple of officers. Back here we have all of my astromech. Yes, some of these aren't actually part of the Rebellion, but I thought I'd include them all here. We have loads of different varieties, including a couple of choppers, more R2-D2s, and much more. More protocol droids and medical droids here, as well as a couple of other smaller droids. And then we have our pilots over here. 4 snowspeeder pilots, 6 regular pilots, an E-wing pilot, U-wing pilots, A-wing pilots, and the 10 Num minifigure. And overall, this Rebel collection is looking pretty sick. Next army up is my droids. So I grabbed my bag full of battle droids and set them up on a base plate. Once I set them up on a base plate, I suddenly remembered that I bought 3 of the new battle packs, which contained a great number of the droids, as well as super battle droids. So I quickly put those together, adding the Octopara droids to the right and the Staps to the left, creating a total of 157 minifigures led by General Grievous at the front. I think this army is definitely lacking, and I really need to start improving this in the next couple of years. So hopefully LEGO will make more droid sets, but this battle pack is going to be a really good place to start building this army. Now jumping up to an army consisting of almost 3 times the amount of minifigures, it's time to turn to one of my favorites, the Imperials. I started by laying out my regular stormtroopers, including my Rogue One style on the right, followed by 50 of the newest style in the middle. I mean, I should have 50 of each of these, but I seem to have misplaced 1 or 2, so I definitely need to find out where they've got to. But in the meantime, yet again, I'm turning to those magazines, and I added 49 of the new style stormtroopers, with 50 snowtroopers off to the left, and some of the beautiful scout troopers in front. Once again, using some figures from the magazines to finish off the 2 squads of 25. The ones along the front have custom arm printing, with a couple of heavy scout troopers based on Jedi Fallen Order. There was 1 new stormtrooper missing, so I cracked open this small mech set, which was a fun little build, and actually the first mech I've ever built. But more importantly, he came with the final minifigure we need to finish off that collection. I added a custom Incinerator Trooper from Firestar Toys, and then moved on to my Mortar Troopers, adding 10, and I still think these are such underrated minifigures. In front of them, I added 5 of the Sand Troopers. These are actually really expensive, and I'm glad to have this many in the army. Next to them, I added some pilots and Death Troopers in front of those, and with our first 2 base plates created, I added the figures to the 3rd and 4th base plates, with 8 Patrol Troopers, 8 Hover Tank Pilots, 8 Shock Troopers, 8 ATDP Drivers in the 2 colours, some Mimban Troopers, including these beautifully custom printed minifigures, with the Shore Troopers in front of them, 16 Jet Troopers from that 2015 battle pack, some Imperial Ground Crew members and Death Star Troopers to the left, followed by the Dark Troopers from the Mandalorian, and some TIE Fighter pilots in the final squad on the left. Next, it's time to add our officers, with this small squad of 20 in the middle, including the light grey, dark tan, and black officer variants. I have 4 custom Purge Troopers from Jedi Fallen Order, as well as the droid from the Obi-Wan show. In front of them, we have some Hoth officers, next to some Flame Troopers, with Iden Versio and her Inferno squad in front of them, and some Shadow Troopers at the front. I have a small squad of droids to the right, including 2 of the K2SO droids, which I'm so glad to have in my collection as they're getting more and more expensive. And speaking of figs I love, we have the darker grey Imperial officers with some generals in front. Over to the left, we have some miscellaneous figures, including some tank pilots from the Mandalorian, these blue troops from Darth Vader's castle, range troopers, and then an Imperial version of Crosshair from the Bad Batch. We have our 4 Royal Guards and then some Inquisitors flanking the main set of troops in the centre, which features of course Emperor Palpatine, with a few Darth Vader minifigures, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Moff Gideon, Tarkin, Agent Kallus, the Imperial Spy, Admiral Yularen, Krennic, and a couple of other minifigures at the front. And I say this every time, but this is one of my favourite armies, and the total is creeping up towards 500, with 485 minifigures now being part of my 2024 Imperial army. But this army is going to look tiny next to the next and final army that you've all been waiting for, the clones. I laid down 6 grey base plates for this collection, and it's time for our clone army to begin, and I began by laying out some P1 clones, starting with the figures from the booster pack. We have 50 of the regular white Phase 1s, as well as 15 of the commanders. Sticking with the Phase 1 theme, we have all the different ranked officers in the realistic style, 15 of the white clones and 5 pilots behind them. Moving back in time now to the animated style, we have all the different commanders from the show, as well as an ARC Trooper and loads of different Phase 1 animated style clone troopers, from gunners to bomb squad troopers to ARF troopers, finishing off with 25 regular white animated clones behind them. Now it's time for my favourite part of the army, the new Phase 2 2020 style clones, the newest style of Phase 2 clones that LEGO have been going with, starting off with over 50 of the 212th troopers, with the beautiful custom Waxer and Boyle, as well as an airborne trooper and Commander Cody at the front. Next, we move on to our 501st collection with 75 regular 501st minifigures, a squad of 25 from the new battle pack, followed by 25 jet troopers from that original 501st battle pack. Next, we have some 332nd, but as you can see, we've got some pretty big gaps here, so I bought 4 more of the 332nd battle pack, built them up, and added them in to the army to create a squad of 25. Going back to those battle packs that we bought earlier for the droids, of course they also come with some clone troopers, so I built up the clone builds, and I think I've come to the realization that I've got to buy a ton more of these in the future. But for now, we have 5 shock troopers with the regular Fox from the gunship, behind 9 of the regular white Phase 2 clones, and 5 of the gunners from the ATTE in front of them. Moving to the left, we have our 187th clones from the Republic fighter tank, and again we have a couple of gaps, so I bought 2 more of those sets, building them up and buying 1 more airborne trooper, to complete the squad of 25 of the purple clones. But back over to the right, we added our LEGO Bad Batch, as well as this beautifully printed 2020 style Imperial Commander Cody made by Grandpa Clone Customs. And speaking of GCC, I bought 4 of the Doom Troopers. There's a gap here left for the new Commander Doom minifigure that GCC just released, but until he arrives, I'll fill the gap with this hologram trooper. But these 2020 style customs from GCC match perfectly with LEGO's new style. So speaking of them, we added 5 of the Phase 2 91st Troopers, as well as 5 of the 91st Anaxis Troopers. During the Clone Wars TV show, on Umbara and a few other episodes, we see a bunch of different named 501st Clone Troopers, and I now have every single one of them, including Hardcase, Dogma, Apo, Jesse, Tup, my favourite Kix, the iconic 5s, Rex, Echo, and of course finally Vaughn. This little squad of 25 customs looks fantastic, but we're not done here with the customs. We next have 2 of the non-genetically engineered clones of Jango Fett, being Omega and Boba, followed by 2 of the ARC Troopers from Battlefront 2, 2 4th 42nd, 2 7th Legion, and 2 5th Fleet Troopers. Next then we have 2 of the 327th and 2 Wolfpack clones, followed by some commanders including Wolf, Bly, Fox, Hauser, and Grey. This giant mass of the new style clones just looks phenomenal to me. They've really grown on me over the years, and with GCC coming out with so many different variants that LEGO won't, I'm really loving collecting these figures at the moment. But we're not done here with the clone army. Moving back in time, we have some rare white clones from 2014, followed by some of the gunners in the realistic style, 3 custom Commander Codys, a Waxer, a Boyle, and a load of the old 212 minifigures, including some Airborns. Next I moved on to the Nova Corps, with Bakara leading 8 of the Galactic Marines, and I filled in the rest of the squad with the 91st Recon Troopers. Next up, I had a small squad of Wolfpack, as well as some clone pilots. I really hope GCC will make some of these in the future. I added my custom Bad Batch into the corner, and moved on to 2 of the most unique legions of clones from LEGO, the Geonosis Troopers, as well as the Kashyyyk style clone troopers. Behind the Geonosis clones, we added some Commandos, including Delta Squad, as well as some ARF Troopers, and a variety of different customs behind the Kashyyyk Troopers. I have another group of customs up here, which is my giant Shock Trooper army, as well as some 187th, 327th, and other miscellaneous clones behind them. Finally making it to the last section of clones, and the oldest clones in my collection, which is made up of this small squad of the OG style Phase 2 clone troopers. And with that, the total comes to 670 clone troopers. The addition of GCC definitely makes a huge difference to this army, and I'm going to be focusing mainly on collecting more of those 2020 style clones as LEGO and GCC release more in the future. I absolutely love every army that I featured in this video, but let me know what your favorite is. I decided to do them all in one big collection video this year, so if you enjoyed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and come along to my auction. If you liked this video, I think you might also enjoy the one popping up on your screen now, which is where I built a clone army in just 7 days. So take a look at that one, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.